Hi, I'm Francis, and over the last 2 years, I painted a lot of portraits in oil pastel. And today I want to share 5 mistakes I often did, and if you do them as well, how we can fix them. Let's dive right in and talk about mistake number 1. We are already setting ourselves up for either success or failure before we even touch our first oil pastel stick. That's because the first mistake is to choose a bad reference photo. Yes, I too see things on Pinterest all the time and I think, I need to paint that. What a gorgeous reference picture. But is it though? Because shortly after I struggle with the color choices, the motif looks waxy and the skin tone's muddy and I just don't know why. So let's talk about what makes a good reference picture. Look at these 4 portraits. All of them are beautiful, but I claim one of them is much easier to paint than the others. Which one is it? This one, and let me tell you why. What I find most helpful in a reference picture is a clear light structure. And don't worry, I won't go into light theory, I just want you to look for a few markers. First off, is there a highlight? That highlight will indicate that there is a part of the portrait that is facing the light. The highlight leads you right into the second marker, the broader area of the face that is facing the light. Conversely, we'll know that just before the light-facing area ends, there are first the midtones and then this divider between the light and shadowed part. It's called the terminator. And the last marker to look for is a bonus. It's okay if your reference picture doesn't show it clearly. It's bounce light. If the person is wearing a bright blouse or is standing next to a colored wall, it'll reflect and bounce back some light onto the skin. Remember this the next time you find a beautiful picture. Do yourself a favor and skip any washed out photos or, worst case, pictures with filters. You might ask, Francis, where do I find a good and free portrait reference picture? I had the exact same question and found that Domestika already answered this in a blog post where they list 10 free resources. At least 3 of those I can recommend, so I'll link that post in the description below for you. The picture I am using right now is from thispersondoesn'texist.com. It's an AI generated portrait. It creates a new picture each time you reload it. Some of them great, very diverse, and I found this portrait on there. But don't save the picture, it'll save a new portrait. Make a screenshot. On to the second mistake. I chose bad colors. We have our broad, chunky sticks of one color each, and it can be a real struggle to know which one to pick. A big help for me is the online resource Red Ketchup Color Picker, or any other color picker you can find. What you can do there is upload your reference image and then pick colors from it. It can be really helpful to see the extracted pure color without its surroundings altering your view. If you have no idea which colors to choose for a whole area, pick 5 colors in different places of the part in question and you'll have an overview on how the colors change. Unless you have a vast Sennelier collection, chances are you don't have the exact color you need to create a realistic oil pastel portrait. And the reason I like Red Ketchup is because just below the color picker is a column that'll tell you how to create this color using primaries. Of course, the behavior is different with a real medium, but it'll give us a starting point and point us in the right direction of color, and most times, that's all I need. If you want to have an exact recipe, consider getting a book on this topic, such as a color recipe catalog. The third mistake considers the blending process, and it's something I myself still want to get better at. You might know that I love blending with paper stumps as well as neutral gloves. They are my go-to blending tools. Paper stumps for details, gloves for broad areas. I encourage you though to try different blending methods. These could include a palette knife, the pastel stick itself, cotton swabs, or your fingers. That will give it texture, and texture is one of the key features and, unique selling points of this medium. And I personally will try to not overblend in the future. I noticed with my portraits that they looked waxy. It was either perfectly smooth or a sharp line, and that's not enough variety to do a human face justice. Maybe in a few weeks we can share our progress and compare notes. On that note, I will be doing a video on textured oil pastel art in the near future. I'm talking impasto here, where you can almost sculpt the surface. If you have any questions about that you want answered, make sure to send them to me either in a comment here or keep an eye out on my community tab, where I will ask for questions soon in a post. Next up, mistake number 4, ending it too early. Highlights and shadows bring a painting together. Do not underestimate how much a highlight here and a crevice shadow line there can affect your portrait. And I'm very bad at that. I usually work on a portrait until I don't want to continue. And then I say it's done, when in reality it would need some more touching up. If there is one thing you should invest in, it's a high quality white oil pastel stick. I recently tested out the higher Paul Rubens oil pastels, and what I noticed was how quickly the white lost its vibrancy. If you can, get a Neo Pastel or Sennelier white, whichever is more readily available to you, because having highlights that pop and shadows that lift the front layer helps immensely with bringing your portrait to life. Last mistake I want to share. We all know oil pastels can be very smudgy, create loose crumbs, or have ragged outlines. I personally don't care. I'm just not an aesthetically ambitious person and a very messy artist. But I know a lot of you care about that. So, how can you create nice edges, not just around your portrait details, but also separate the background from the portrait? The frame around your painting is easiest answered. Use masking tape. It will help create a clean border around your painting. And you can't see it, but off camera, I am sticking that masking tape onto my jeans so that it's not as sticky. Otherwise, it will fully rip the paper when I remove it. I haven't found a good masking tape yet, so that's what I'll do until I find one. Then for separating the face, this is the time for our blending stumps to shine. If your oil pastel sticks are too chubby to create fine lines and for you to know where the edge is, use blending stump to create those lines. They are really a great tool for this. Also, use harder oil pastel sticks for the background. If you have the opportunity to get different brands of oil pastel sticks with a variety of consistency, then go for the softer brand for your face and the harder brands for your background. That'll make the portrait pop even more. Another tip for correcting little mistakes and edges. In this painting of a marble statue, I found that titanium buff has exactly the same color as the background paper. And that's what I use to correct small areas with the help of a blending stump and create sharp lines. When you cover the whole background, it's even easier. Maybe add details again that were lost in the process, and voila, your portrait is nicely visible. Lastly, you can use a tiny bit of solvent. I am no fan of chemicals. I'd love to try out oil paint, but only the water-soluble, non-toxic ones, such as the ones from Schminke Blue or Cobra, because I myself am smell sensitive and just don't want to work with chemicals. No turpentine for me, but it would absolutely help you with details. What I'm using here to show this is linseed oil. It's unfortunately, very oily. It's oil, therefore I don't use it in my sketchbook, but you can rather use it on canvas panels or wood. A blending tool I soon want to try out is a color shaper or silicone brush. I think it's used usually when working with clay, but it should work very well with oil pastels as well. I'm sharing these mistakes so you don't have to make them. I hope this was helpful, and remember to send me your questions about textured oil pastels, and make sure to subscribe to my channel so we'll see each other in the next video. Bye!